Yo, what is good, everybody, man? Hopefully, everybody's feeling loved and blessed. As always, bro, welcome back to another Kids Room podcast episode with the visual and the audio today, man. So, hey, glad to see everybody. Hopefully, everybody is doing well. It is the 8th month in 2025. Who knew that we would be here this quick? Who knew whether if it was a good year or a bad year? It's still August. It's still 2025 for each and every one of us. It's all the same, right? There's no difference, right? So there's no reason that we can always have an excuse for every little thing because we all have the same amount of time. Though it may look different for everybody, we still have the same 24 hours. We still have the same 365. We still have the same 52 weeks in a year. So what does that mean, guys? We got to keep pushing. We got to keep striving because 2026 will be here whether we want it to be or not, right? I'm going to plug this up real quick. But, hey, there was a time at one point, you know what I'm saying? I feel like I've had a lot of excuses for a lot of things, but for some reason, I couldn't accept that. For some reason, I couldn't take it sitting down. I had to keep fighting. I had to do something about it. There wasn't always it's not in me to give up all the time, right? It's not in me to just let everything go, especially if it's something that I really want to do. Or sometimes in life, God will put things into perspective, or have things happen in your life where you can't avoid them. You can't run away from them, right? And what does that mean, though? Like, even when things are happening in your life, that means God is allowing you, right? The same way Job was tested in multiple ways, but God allowed for the enemy to test you. So what does that mean? That the enemy is allowed to test you when God allows it. And God says in the word that he will not tempt you more than what you can handle. So what you were struggling with, what you can be tempted with, what you can be challenged with is something that you can handle, even though you don't feel like you can, even though you don't see that you can at the time, right? Short story, just to really get into the episode, you know what I'm saying, is earlier this year, my grandpa had passed away, and going through all that process and doing those things and traveling back and forth, my car had issues, had to pay money for that, starting a new job, moving into a new place and doing those things, it has challenges, right? And even though I didn't face all these challenges beforehand, it wasn't until I got to my new destination is when these challenges start to arise. And it's really easy for someone to be discouraged, right? And to think that, wow, well, all these things are happening to me. The enemy is laughing at me in my face, saying that because I did this, because I moved here, because I did these things, this is why this is happening to me. But if you look at it, if I took a second to just breathe and really look at it down the line, a few months later, it was for a reason, because God wanted me not to just have it easy all the time. But if this is what I really wanted, if this is something that I really wanted to do in my life, there has to be a story behind it. There has to be a testimony behind it. And when there's a testimony of strength and courage and so much discouragement, and you don't even know how you're doing it, it's because God wants you to know that it's because of him. There's no other reason why you are going through most of your hard days and you feel like you have nothing else to lose. And it's just, you're just building, you're just stacking days. I say that so much to myself. And just even on social media, just talking about stacking days. And that's just meaning when the enemy is laughing in your face, when everything is going against you, when all odds are against you, what are you continuing to do? What are you continuing to discipline yourself with? I went on Instagram and I put a poll and I said, what was harder, right? Discipline or consistency? And most people chose discipline, right? Because consistency is one thing. You wake up every day and you want to start a new habit. Every day you want to read a book, you want to read 15 pages out of a book. But it's not until it takes discipline when you have a hard day at work, whenever something goes wrong and you go into bed later or anything like that. And then you still have to make that time to do what you said you were going to do. That's the discipline, right? Consistency is easy. Discipline is hard, right? My grandfather passed. It almost seemed like everything was hitting me at once. But discipline is what was the hardest thing, right? It wasn't the consistency. It was asking God, just getting me through the next flight. You know what I'm saying? Getting me through to the next time I can go to bed, next time I can eat, whatever the case may be. It wasn't, not saying like it was that much of a struggle, but it was just so much was going on at that time. I was so stressed. I wasn't able to work out. I wasn't able to maybe get into the word as much as I can because of all the things that were happening, right? And then you're trying to look with other people, and then you're not living with your family anymore. I moved away from my family, so then I have to go back with the family that I was living with, right? Because that was my mother's father, right? So I'm seeing her again and seeing how that's affecting her and my family and the other people. It's so much, but there's so many reasons to give up. But like for some reason, man, you can't. I can't. I couldn't. It was like this was something I couldn't run from. This was something I shouldn't run from because it wasn't even a thought that I was gonna give up. It was just the fact that I'm tired. But you know what? I know there's people there that need me, right? When I was speaking about at my grandfather's funeral, speaking on the obituary, everyone else was talking. But it was whenever I started talking and I started talking about things that the mic wanted to cut off and it wasn't working. But because I have a loud voice, because God blessed me with a gift, I was able to finish it. And then it wanted to cut on towards the end, but it was already done. You know what I'm saying? So that might be small for someone for someone else, but for someone else that's listening to this, that could be really big because there's so much that's going on. I could just quit when the mic was done. I could just quit when everybody's just looking and you feel the sorrow, you feel all these things going on. But for some reason, man, it's like every time I call my grandfather, though, whether he was in the hospital or he was at home, I would ask what he's doing. He always would say that he's hanging out with his friend. His friend was Jesus Christ. He would always explain that it would always be okay if you pray, right? It would always be okay if you just read the word and you wake up and you just live and you just do the best that you can. It's just to live, man. And that's what you have to see. That's what you have to think about is what are you going to do? What type of person are you going to be when there's conflict, when there's tribulation, when there's trial, when there's challenge, when the enemy is laughing in your face? Who are you going to be? Right? Are you going to be the person that gives up? And then you never get to tell your story. You never get to tell your real testimony to the full extent that it could be and save somebody. I made a post earlier this week that literally talked about if you could save a life, would you quit? If your testimony, your story could save someone else down the line, or if you even knew it could save one life, would you quit? Right? Because I didn't even feel ready to speak about my grandfather. But my off day, so many other people said that maybe I was going somewhere or that they felt they were like really proud, all this stuff. I'm not even going to be on this video talking about like what other people were saying about it, right? But it was good things. But I didn't feel good about myself, right? I didn't feel good in the moment or anything like that. But that just goes to show, man, like things are not always going to correlate to what God's going to bless you with. Your circumstances isn't always going to line up to what God is going to bless you with, right? God can show you a challenge over here, and then he takes your eyes off of it just for a moment to look over here because you thought this challenge was so big. But at the same time, he brought this one and you feel like you couldn't take anymore. But your mind was focused so much on now that you felt like the problem at hand was bigger than the problem that was at foot. But because you took your focus off of the problem that was before, God had you figure out the same situation in this issue. So now you can go back to the same issue and look back at it and see that he delivered you from something that you forgot about. Right? So when the enemy is laughing at you, he's trying to distract you and trying to have you ignore the fact that God is actually delivering you from something that you were struggling with before, maybe. Right? Something that you're struggling with right now, maybe. Right? Something that you thought, boom, I'm doing all these new things and nothing else could be any greater or nothing else could get any worse because I'm already stressed out and all these things are happening. But boom, 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 all these things started happening. And it was almost as if sometimes God will put you in a situation where you know it is just you and him. You know that it is just you on the front line with God, waking up early, staying up late, doing these things, having those little conversations, praying, and still having people come talk to you, saying that what you said, what I said, helped them do this. What I did this. The way I carry myself does this. You might not feel it within yourself, but that's what God is building in you. And most of the time, other people will see it, and the enemy will see it. That's why he's trying to get ahead of you. That's why he's going to push you. That's why he's going to distract you. That's why he's going to discourage you, because he already sees what's going to happen for your life. He already knows what God can kind of cook up in your life. Not to the full extent, but he knows the great factor that you have inside of you. And if you realize it, he can do many things, right? He can't do many things to you. He can't say anything to you. He can't just do anything and bring anyone to you in your situation, and you're going to think, boom, like, that's it. I'm done. I give up. But you know that, wow, like, I'm going to count this a joy. This is something that I'm going to learn from. This is something I got to get to. This is something I got to get through and survive it. You know what I'm saying, bro? But what are you going to do? Who are you going to be when the enemy is laughing in your face, bro? God bless y'all, man. That's all I got for you. I appreciate y'all. Tap in with me on the YouTube, bro. Also on the audio, man. If you think I said something that you appreciate, bro, please reach out. Please get me on Instagram, whatever. I would love to partner with other people just to talk about your testimony, because it could really help somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So I love for people to reach out and to do these things. And if you ever see this and it does do something, like, subscribe, bro. And that's it, bro. That's all I got for y'all. I appreciate y'all for tapping in with me on this one, and I'm going to tap in with y'all on the next one.